I think the entrepreneurship, I feel, starts from your early age, at least for me, because I come from a Sindhi business family. So the entrepreneurship was anyways in DNA. The company which I was working for, which is a housing finance company, and I was part of the fundraise for them. So saw that process very, very closely, which gave me confidence that, if that's the model and if you bring in your expertise, looks doable to me. This was in 2017, a platform called udharbazaar.com, which was essentially giving loans to unsecured loans to semi-urban, self-employed customers who were not catered by the banks. Try to get your hands dirty with doing all around things, whatever you think was not done earlier by anybody. So this was the start.
Post my MBA, I have always been an advertising guy. Largely, most of my career has been into advertising. And when it comes to advertising, it's largely about understanding the audience. What do they want? What do they want to hear? Connecting better with them. Here, it's about the timing. I think that this is the time for me where can I build something. If I would delay this any year further, my risk appetite and everything will further go down. So I don't want to delay this. Rio at something is a very good business. I have been the man of this business. I have been very well networked into this domain, but that is still not that scalable because it's a high capex business. You need to put in a lot of money to get ROI out of it. While that's why we were always wanted to explore something. It's business is all about taking the right decision at the right time. Business is all about embracing bigger targets and be ready to fail. And that's the only philosophy that we've been building Indieslay. We are specifically operating in lanens and we are kind of reinventing the wheels by putting some designer feel to those lanens because lanens is all about planes, solids, monotonous. So that's the niche that we have created. It's a category generation job that we are currently doing.
First, when I was starting, I thought, let me pay off my whatever savings I had, let me pay off my home loan, and I kind of paid half of it and equaled my EMI, same as rent, assuming you're paying rent and not paying the EMI. So they don't have financial burden. And I kept 12 months of cash with me. But then, I realized that 12 months is not enough. The biggest learning I had was you need to have at least 24 to 36 months of runway because it takes time to build a business. If you're especially into financial service, do the hard talk with your partners when you're starting, rather than doing it when the time is bad, because when the time is bad, nobody wants to talk about it. So when the relationships are good, do those tough transactions, negotiations or discussions and document it well. When you're not working, you don't have a boss, you want to do everything. आज ये अच्छा दिखा, चलो ये भी कर लेते हैं. Tomorrow you saw some other opportunity, you want to do that also. So I think when you start, the focus is important. You don't want to go deep in one aspect first and then build on it later. When you start with an idea, you're normally emotionally attached to it, and then you tend to ignore a lot of signals which are not working for you. So you would avoid data which contradicts your assumption. You would also ignore sometimes the negative customer feedback. Whenever you start, you try to write name of 10 people whom you think they will definitely help you. यार ये तो business दे देगा, ये तो मुझे capital दे देगा, ये तो मुझे equity दे देगा. So my suggestion would be that you write those 10 names on a slip and then throw that in the dustbin. I had somebody who was willing to invest in my company. The gentleman was my boss in a company I worked 10 years back. I never thought that whom I worked with 10 years back would give me money, which he was not even in my top 50 list. I was completely surprised when I went and spoke to people out there. People appreciated it so much that it was, beyond my imagination, that if you have taken a risk, if you have tried to do something on your own, then people were willing to give you very good roles. And in fact, if there are two more people competing with you, you would always get an edge over others because you have done something which others have not done.
Hiring talent is a big problem. I'll be very honest. That's the biggest problem. If I talk about if I would have to really prioritize the challenges that I have with regards to even the cash flows or the operations and everything, I think hiring comes first. The core team has to remain very intact and should be there with you for a longer period of time. If the core team changes very frequently and the core team, like Ravi sir very rightly mentioned, that the hard conversation typically strengthens the relationship further. It's like you should, because everything good's when everything is happening good. When things go down south, then the real conversation actually starts. And how people deal with such kind of a conversation is about running business. MBA teaches us to run a business, like how the ideal way to run a business. But actual running business is all about surviving, like how you should be surviving in a business. But they are the founding pillars of FIIB or Indiesley. So that's one aspect that's non-negotiable. We take care of them and they take care of us. People who are showing trust with us are higher in number currently as compared to the people who are not showing interest in us.
Entire 2 years, wherever I got the opportunity to do any project, मैं radio पे ही करता था, right? So project management में I did a project on how to set up a radio station. In marketing and communication, I picked up the radio Mitzi study. So essentially that helps you gain the interest of the insights of the industry. Instead of picking up projects every time from different industry, you go deeper with that industry wherever you want to start with. I went and meet lot of radio station managers. Some of them went on to today, the one gentleman who is Star India, I mean, different fields. Some of those relationships I still hold.
If they really want to see themselves like someone who is a Dipinder or maybe a Piyush Bansal of 10 years down the line, the journey starts immediately today. Knowledge. Business typically runs on two things, what I feel. I am not a very old, मैं कोई दार्शनिक नहीं हूँ, but what I feel is business is typically run on two things. One is that the kind of information that you have and the kind of decisions that you take. The information, knowledge and everything is typically comes from the curriculum and of course your experiences. The decision making is your intuition. When you club both of them together, makes you ever they have tried speaking to the most annoying guy in the class. If they have done this, they are one step ahead of the rest, then the rest of them being the future leader. Do not see job as job. Anyone who is seeing job as entrepreneurship would definitely go a long way, either in their job or they would make a difference in the kind of things that they would do. Enterprising is an attitude. It's not something which people can learn, and that attitude can't come in a day. It is an everyday habit.
So I would love to work with a smaller or a startup because you get a very, very large overview of how the business works versus in a larger companies where you are master of one very small item and you are being asked to do that repeatedly every single day. But when I joined this HFC as head of the sales, I also knew that we were spending 25 lakh rupees for the full year on the team for staff. We were spending 30 lakh rupees on the telecom and electricity. So, which was never the thought process in ICICI. So I think the smaller entities gives you a full horizon of everything, whether it is HR, admin, finance. So if you have a thought that you want to do something on your own, if you get the taste of every single dish, you would know what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
If you want that kind of that people should be talking about the company that you work with and that you want a stable job, that you want to create a work-life balance, of course, the big companies are the one where one should be looking after or going after. But if you really want to accelerate in your career, it's like you want to really go all out, I think well-funded startup is the only choice. It also requires a lot of things that they would want from you. You be ready for that. Don't join these startups once you're not ready. You will fall flat.
Founder or CEO?
Founder, any day.
Data or intuition? How do you end up making most of your decisions?
Most of the time data. But if data is not there, then intuition. I think it's a gift. If you have an intuition which works well, I think you will do well in life.
Corporate scale or startup chaos?
Startup chaos.
If you were starting again, Ravi, would you build in fintech?
But I will build in the fintech only because I think if you spend considerable amount of time, you have network. I mean, you have all the ingredients which are needed: network, the knowledge, the expertise. Hopefully, somebody who will bet you with the capital.
One big idea or multiple bets?
Now that you've already spoken multiple bets, we're looking for one big idea. So it starts from multiple bets, but ultimately we want to end up with one big idea.
Scale fast or build right?
Scale fast. Perfection can come over a period of time. I think startup to start with is all about get things going, because sometimes it takes very longer to make things right, to build things right. Speed matters most than perfection to start with.
Trend chasing or trend creating?
Trend creating. Trying to build is we are trying to create a category itself, and that would take longer, but I think, as I said, that would last longer also.
Fear of failure or fear of losing trust?
Fear of losing trust is something which is a bigger one for me. Once the trust is lost from the audience standpoint, from the consumer standpoint, from the team standpoint, this is very hard to come back from. Failure can easily be recoverable. You can recover from the failure very easily. But that, of course, depends on the kind of failure that you're going through. But when the trust is gone, there's a lot of things at stake. Network better. Networking doesn't start when you're networking with leaders or the founders or anyone who's kind of doing something really special. People see networking that way only. Networking events are typically for the people who are doing exceptionally well. Networking is a habit which they should start building from the time that they are in. If I would have been 0507 today, I would have networked crazy. When I say crazy, it's like a superlative term that I'm using, because currently what they are sitting at is a gold mine. They don't understand the power of the kind of batchmates that they have. They would understand this maybe 10 years down the line.
Would have, ma'am, done more number of case studies and more presentation, because I think it opens up your perspective and of course communication.
What it comes down to is make most of the MBA experience, because those 2 years are packed with a lot of opportunities for you to grow as a T person, right? You can go deep. Ravi, you talked about radio. I mean, that's all the depth that you were looking to create when you were in college for yourself. But you can also go wide with the kind of subject choices, with the network projects and many different ways. So much noise nowadays that if you want to be an entrepreneur, business school is not right for you. What I'm hearing from the two of you is actually the foundation to be an entrepreneur gets laid in business school. So I see this as an evergreen episode of Postcard from Alumni. This advice is going to stay forever relevant. Thank you so much, Sudhanshu. Thank you so much, Ravi.